me, Steve Ruda. Steve, just real quick, my background. You've been in the cost segregation study business for a long, long time. Can you just give us a little bit of, without dating yourself or me, sort of a little bit about your background?
I've been doing this for about 15 years. I started with a very large CPA firm, RSM McGladrey. Was a tax supervisor there, and then went to Advanta/ICS from 2016 to 2022, and then Mariner started a specialty tax group in 22, and our team joined and have been there now 3.5 years.
I've got an angry little dog in the background. I recently switched offices in my house, and they have not adjusted to me being in the new office, which you can see there's no background. If you've seen my webinars before, I've got a great background with a bunch of pictures. It's all getting renovated. It's so exciting. But that's just going to be completely different look in a couple of weeks. Regardless, I want to jump in. So, Steve, what I want to start with is I've got some clients who really understand cost segregation study, and I've got some that don't. And I think it's important to give us some background if you had a client on the phone and they're looking at a property either live or they're like looking through an offering, what are they looking for? What are the elements that you see that generate the best bang for your buck on a cost segregation study?
A lot of that comes into the finishes, and it can be, I'm going to say, when I'm looking at a building, is it tile floor or is it carpet? Is it LVT flooring? Carpet and LVT is 5-year property, shorter life. Tile floor or wood floors, real wood floors, are 39 years or 27.5 if it's residential. And so looking at those things, and then when you're looking, like I said, is the finishes, does it have high-end finishes? Does it have a lot of electrical or extra plumbing? For example, restaurants are huge because you think about all of the plumbing that goes into the kitchen and the bar, and all of that becomes personal property. And so that's what we're looking at. So those are what I look at. I actually had a meet this afternoon. I was at lunch and we were doing a little discussion with Mariner advisors, and guy asked, and I was sitting in the room and I'm like, well, these lights I would take as 39-year property. These lights I would take as 5-year property, the chandeliers and, the wall scones versus the recessed can lights in the ceiling.
So now you and I came from similar backgrounds. I was at RSM. I was at their national office. I actually wrote parts of the cost seg guidebook. This was, I think, before you joined there. I'm sure everything's changed and probably didn't have my name on anything anymore, but I remember developing those products. Some of the things I remember from those days, when you said lighting, it's if they have can lights, those are the lights that are supposed to light the room, and all the accent lights are going to give you benefit, right? So I think I remember one case where there was accent lighting but no can lights. We were like, oh my gosh, you just had to put in a couple can lights and we would have been able to depreciate it.
Exactly. And when you're looking at restaurants, that's one thing is are you looking at that bottom line, or do you have some recessed can lights and what's over here? And I looked at a building last week, and yeah, it had really awesome track lights, but that was the only source of lighting. So unfortunately, that's 39-year life.
Talk to me about kitchens then, because that's a little bit controversial. Kitchen in an apartment, kitchen in a restaurant.
Kitchens and restaurants are very straightforward. There is a court case that right now the IRS is kind of holding their hat on, and it's Amerisouth, which is kind of talked about some of the kitchen equipment and cabinets. There's a court case that this company took and did a cost segregation, and it was not they were aggressive and didn't do a really good job. And the IRS challenged it, went up to the court case, and the person had already, or the investment group had sold it, so they didn't care. So they never showed up. And so the IRS made a lot of presumptions that weren't favorable for the tax people. You just have to be careful of, hey, is this the sink is going to be plumbing, and that's going to be a 27.5 year, but the dishwasher is 5-year, and the water that goes into the plumbing that goes to the dishwasher, the plumbing that goes into your refrigerator, if you have water lines to your refrigerator, that's all personal property. But the IRS says to be an apartment, you have to have a sink, you have to have a bathroom, you have to have certain things that are going to be part of the building.
That makes apartment buildings a little bit tougher. So what I wanted to focus on today is, hang on before I go up there, but what I want to focus on is the really fun stuff, like unique things. And I've got some examples I want to work out. But like, let's just talk about some of that before we dive into the examples. Cold storage, because you're building out a building within a building, right? Scientific buildings where they've got clean rooms, they've got all this stuff. There's a whole ton of personal property in it that's going to qualify for bonus depreciation. But, what are some of the other things that are sort of weird, like a flooring that's got like a heavier concrete because you've got machinery? What are some of the things, again, building tour wise?
No, and so sometimes, like when we're looking at manufacturing facilities, again, is you're going to have a floor, it's got to have a floor. But if that floor is reinforced for equipment, then that part of it becomes personal property and can be depreciated over 5 or 7 years, depending on their class life. Versus, hey, this is there. But the other, so that type of flooring, I'm going to say this on a bad side, which I know we don't. I had a client who spent about $150,000 on a bank vault door for their CFO. So her office was really in a bank vault. That, unfortunately, because it's a door, was 39-year property. But we go into cold storage, like you said there, blast freezers, food manufacturers, blast freezers, where it's all processed and it's its own room, and like you said, that can be a shorter life. And that's things I've seen that are mis kind of calculated and seen from time to time.
Well, we're going to get into some examples here. I've got this handout that I made a while ago, and I'm having trouble getting it to come up. There it is. So I don't know, Steve, if you can see this on your screen, but the audience can see it. I'm just going to go through a couple of the things that I found that had a lot of bonus depreciation that people hadn't really thought about before. So that's the point of this whole webinar, is I want the viewers to be able to see, I never really thought of that. That's a good idea, because 2026, in my mind, you tell me if I'm wrong, but in my mind, this is a year of bonus depreciation. Like the law got passed. We've had a few months to figure it out now, and it's go time. You can invest right now smartly and write off more than a dollar for dollar. The dollar that you invest, you put $1 into a building as a down payment, you borrow the rest, you're going to get more depreciation and more write-off than you put it in cash in some cases. But we got to do this right. We got to find the right property. So I'm just going to dive in. First one's the easy one. Steve, tell me about gas stations.
Gas stations are, again, they fall under the class like 57.1, which means it's the whole building. It's one of those unique things where the whole building can be 15-year property. Gas stations, when you're looking at a gas station, look to see, when you're looking and talking to the buyer or the seller, how much of the property or how much of your sales are petroleum or gas, and how much are food or convenience. There's a rule there that 50%. So if it's 50% convenience,
50.
Yep, 50. And so if it's 50% convenience store, or let's say they have a laundromat attached to it, or a Taco John's, or a fast food, it's the whole building. So, but if 50% of those sales are gas, then the whole building qualifies for what we say is 57.1. And you can now take its 15-year life, which means the whole building can be 100% bonus eligible.
So I think when you're looking at a lot of gas tanks probably mean a lot of gas sales. And when gas was really expensive, this was an easier math to do too, right? When it's $4 now, it comes down any more than this, we could end up in danger territory. You only have to meet it the year you place it in service, or I can't remember what the rule is on that.
Well, it's an annual test.
It is.
But if you've fully taken the depreciation in year one, you're done.
It doesn't matter if you fail the test. Yep. I want to think for a second here just about a Buc-ee's. Have you done a Buc-ee's? Because those stores are massive and there's all kinds of stuff, but also they've got like 125 pumps out front.
We have not done Buc-ee's. They actually kind of do them in-house themselves. But we have done chains, a lot of chains that our team has worked on in the past, well-known chains that, yes, they've done that. And we kind of, the one we created their system and then they just run it through now.
Well, not nice for you. You probably should get a new engagement for that, but I understand. That aside. Okay, let's move on to car washes. So to me, this is weird. I'm going to give you as a tax attorney, I'm going to give you my opinion, which I think might be different than most. I'm not so sure that when they created asset class 57.1, that they really thought long and hard about putting car washes in there. Now, this is an IRS document. This is, here's how you're going to depreciate things. There's some tie-in to gas stations. Gas stations kind of come with car washes and stuff, but I don't know. But it's in there, right? It's crystal clear, and we've been through audits.
Yep, it's very crystal clear that again it falls into that 57.1, and car washes are for the most part no-brainers. Again, it's a 50% square foot of the square footage of the building, and so if you have your standalone car wash that's got 3 bays and maybe a 5-foot office, that's 100% going to qualify for 57.1. And again, it's all right there. You can take the whole deduction. I looked at one in a rural town in Minnesota last week, and I actually had to ask because 52 feet of it is storage, and then 60 feet, so it's 112 feet long, the building, 60 feet is car wash, 52 feet is storage. And I'm like, I knew they didn't know this going into it, but I'm like, you got lucky because the square footage says you do meet this because it's over 50%.
Nice. Well, that's so car washes are in, gas stations are in. Those are I would say, if I'm looking at properties, that's their number 1 and 2, because they're can be 100%. You're talking about everything but the land value. I don't know about you, land underneath the gas station, probably contaminated, probably has gas tanks in it, probably not worth very much. I'm not an appraiser. I can't tell you what land is worth, but I can tell you there's probably a lot of building value there, and it's qualified for bonus.
Exactly. I have a client who's buying 10 to 15 properties a year that qualify under 57.1, and it's a great tax write-off for him.
Yeah. Yeah, we do too. I mean, it's the biggest home runs I've hit in my career as a tax advisor. All right, I'm moving on to self-storage. So here there's some good and some bad news. Tell us a little bit about self-storage facilities.
Self-storage units, again, and we're looking at an interior self-storage. There's 2 types of really 3 types of self-storage. You have the new designs where you're building the building, and then you're building these walls and these partitions, like we see on the screen there. Those are great reclass. Again, problem is you're going to have concrete floors. That's going to be 39 years. But all of the different rooms and the sub rooms and the panels there, those can normally become 5-year assets. So they have a lot of reclass. We have I'm going to call them the traditional storage units, where, they've been around forever, and you pull up and, you have a gate and you walk through and you drive into your, space. Those are really good as well. What I look for there is it concrete? What type of parking lot do you have? Is it concrete? Is it asphalt? Is it crushed rock? Because those all vary. Concrete obviously is going to be the most expensive. So when we rebuild and we build out the purchase price of the building, if it's concrete, hey, that's even better. But then what I'm looking at self-storage units is you have to look at how they're framed. So some framing, it'll be a stick frame, and you'll have 2x4s, and you'll have every room kind of broken up. It's a 10x20, but then a lot of the new ones are actually the metal sidings or the metal walls in between the two, and those are screws. And so there's a court case out there that says that those walls become movable, and those can be now the interior partitions can take as 5-year property. because I can take that screw off and I can make now that unit that was a 10 by 20, it now can become a 10 by 40, or it can be a 20 by, if there's two sides, you can take off the backside. And so those things are things that I would look at if I was looking at a storage unit for that price. Now, I'm going to say I've got a good friend and a client that's in storage. Right now, it's a tough market, but it's great depreciation.
We are not here, neither of us are here to assess the financial viability of an investment. We should probably make some kind of disclaimer. This is not our gig. I can't tell you whether to buy it. We're just tax guys.
Yep.
Okay, I'm moving on to something that I think is interesting. This was new to me when I was doing the research. I've never done one of these. I actually don't have any clients that own these, but amusement parks to me sound kind of interesting. What's unique about them that gives them some extra bonus depreciation?
So buildings in an amusement park are, again, a 15-year asset. So if you have a restaurant, so I'm going to say this is, you have the amusement park that everybody knows about in Minnesota, Valley Fair. You have all those restaurants inside those. If it's solely for that park where you have to pay admission to go to those restaurants, the whole building and everything else can be a 15-year life. And then you think about all of the land improvements, right?
Right.
You think of all of the, the carts and all of the paths that are all asphalt, and the land improvements for theme parks are enormous.
I had never thought about getting into the theme park business. It never even sounded remotely interesting to me, because in my experience, when I leave Disney World, the only person smiling is the statue of Mickey Mouse, because he took all your money. That's sort of the running joke, right? Kids aren't smiling. They're crying because they're tired. Mom and dad are tired. Tough business. I think tough business to run, but man, bonus depreciation coming out of their ears. Okay, next one. This is my favorite. And golf courses. I can't say this for sure, but since Donald Trump was the one who proposed the one big beautiful bill, and he didn't talk a lot about bonus depreciation in his speeches, but he owns a lot of golf courses. And I just find it hard to believe that this is pure coincidence that there's a lot of bonus depreciation on a golf course. Where does that come from?
A lot of the golf courses, again, as you think, it's kind of counterintuitive. You're like, it's grass, right? I'm walking on grass. But you watch the golf course be made. If you ever seen a golf course and, a brand new golf course, and all of the work that goes into setting up the fairways, setting up the greens, those are all technically land improvements, and therefore we can depreciate what normally would be land, right? We're now being able to take all of that cost, and because it's not just land, it's not just grass, it's built up land improvements. And so golf courses are very good. If anybody's bought a golf course, this is a shameless plug. Give me a call, because I have to go see every hole, and Todd can join me on that site visit. We'll make sure we see, and as bad a golfer I am, is I'll see every part of the golf course.
I do think it's important to make sure that a ball lands on the green at some point in my golf game after the fourth or fifth stroke, just to make sure that there is sand underneath of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, fair point. We need to see. I had the chance as a younger man to audit a golf course once, and I didn't know anything about tax. I did, but I was brand new, just green as could be, and I never could. It didn't occur to me why they broke out all the cart paths and tee boxes, and all I could think of was, wow, those are expensive. People were ahead of the game on this one. All right, I stopped screen sharing, but I'm going to go through them. I might go back and forth, but I want to make sure you and I get some screen time and can talk to each other. Casinos are the next one up. Again, this is one in my research surprised me. I don't have any casino clients. I know some people who build them but not own them. What is it in a casino that you look for that makes it extra special?
Again, as casinos, it's all going to be the accent lighting. It's going to be, you think about a casino and the experience they have, and they never want it to be dark. They want it to be, so you never think, if you're, can't tell if it's 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. when you're at the casino. And you think about all the electrical that goes into the slot machines. And so, again, is when we're looking at a cost segregation study, is we're going to have the common electrical that's going to be 39-year. But then everything that goes to the slot machines or the lights for the accent and all of that becomes personal property. So casinos have normally they have a very large reclass and are, because again, it's all for aesthetics, it's all for the comfort of their clients.
So that brings me to another thing that's, I believe, is similar, because my understanding of casinos is there's under the floor, there's a lot of electrical. And then there's a lot of HVAC up above, and even underneath, I think some casinos push air up to clear the smoke and stuff. All of that stuff, right? Because it's specialty equipment. But it reminds me of a data center, right? The same thing. They're running cables under flooring, they're running specialty electrical, they're running specialty cooling equipment, and obviously what is needed to run these racks of servers. So how did data centers fare?
Data centers are also another one that has a lot of reclass because, as you just said, all of the electrical, all of the HVAC, all of the cooling that you need. It's just like a normal server room. One example I'm going to use as, when we look at a server room, a lot of times they'll have a dedicated air conditioner, right? Air conditioners, HVAC is normally 39-year life for the most part, right? But if it's process related, or if it's for, again, is to clean out the smoke, or in a casino, or if it's for a data center to cool that and make sure it's a certain temperature and a certain moisture level, then that all becomes 5-year, 7-year personal property. And so data centers have a ton of that. Data centers, most of the time are concrete floors, but they do, like I said, have a lot of extra electrical. And so when I'm looking at a building, and when I'm looking at that, is you have to think and say, okay, how much is a normal building, and what's this electrical load here when you're looking to buy a building?
Right. Do you have to amp it up, or do you just go with the standard? Right. Makes sense. I've got one. My next one on my list. Don't jump in yet, because I'm going to take a different take on this. Because we already talked about things like clean manufacturing, lab science buildings and stuff. So I think the things you've mentioned are the same things you're going to see: specialty equipment, electrical, things like that. But this one, more than any of the other ones I've seen, sometimes the tenants own the improvements. Talk about some of the nuances of, does the tenant own it? Does the landlord really own it? Does the landlord pay for it? Tenant's paying them back. Does it revert back to the landlord? Does the tenant have a duty to remove it? How do all those rules play out, and how do you make that decision?
A lot of that goes into, again, is we want to look at the lease agreements. So when we're doing a study that has tenant improvements, or is like a multi-tenant office or a multi-tenant retail center, we want to look at the leases that are in place. Because again, some of the times is the tenant owns them. That yes, they've been given, but there's a time frame, and I believe it's less than 15 years for a market lease. That if it's less than 15 years, it's one way. If it's longer than that, it goes to the tenant. And so there are rules that we have to look at. And so again, is when we're doing those studies, we will actually ask for that tenant agreement and that to see how long that lease is, and that which brings up another, we're just talking through leases, and that is if you're renting to a government building, you really want to be aware, or a government organization or a not-for-profit, you want to be aware of the lease agreements, because you can get into ADS lives.
Oh.
So if you have a building that you're renting to the state or that, you have to be careful, because it could all be ADS lives, because the lease might be too long, and ADS means no bonus.
Right.
So you have to be aware
I'm going
of
to get
that.
into a discussion about ADS on this call because it's technical, but that is a great point.
Yep.
Yeah, we run into that with 163J limited people too.
Yep.
Good point. Well, let's stay on the fun stuff. Let's stay away from the call your attorney Todd and your cost seg guy Steve before making any decisions. That's the standard disclaimer for that one. One that's was super popular in the past 10 years. I think the popularity, I don't know where it's at right now. It's probably very regional. but things like marijuana, cannabis facilities have the potential to have a lot of cost segregation ability. What's the things to look for there?
Some of the problem with the is it's still a controlled substance. So you can take your normal depreciation, but again, is you have to be careful of because it's still controlled substance in the federal. And so there are limits with that. So again, is make sure you know there's different areas, and I don't have it known that well because we don't do a ton of them, but you have different types of facilities qualify, and different types of facilities are absolutely you can't do. So again, as you're looking at something, talk to your CPA, talk to us, and make sure you know what you're buying before you just say, hey, this is a great opportunity. But again, it's the plumbing, it's all of the when you do one, it's all the hydro lights. You think about all of that, and that all qualifies.
And some of them are even temporary structures, and who knows what you're getting
Yeah.
into.
You get into greenhouses, and greenhouses are great ones. If you have a greenhouse that is bolted down and not, then again, that is a temporary fixture, and you can take that as all 15-year land improvements.
Run. So that brings us to the last one I have in my weird list of things you can find, and that's farm buildings. There's a litany of. Are you in food production? There's a barn. What's a barn? What's a tool shed? What's a chicken coop? What's a turkey coop? What's a hog barns? And then all the way down to the processing. I did a stint in the summer. I would never admit to this on live camera. I worked at Jenny O Turkeys for a summer. Wait, we're alive, aren't we? Darn it. But it was an internship. I was in college, not an internship. It was a summer job. I was in college, and they had an assembly line of just taking apart the parts of the turkey, the meat, and it was crazy. But I got to think back to that. That room was always 40 degrees, and just all the way from where you're growing the turkeys to where you're delivering them. There's probably a lot of bonus depreciation.
There is bonus depreciation for if it's a single use egg building. That's a 10-year life. If it's a farm building, we normally don't see a lot of cost segregation studies on them because it's already a 10 or 20-year life. And so you're already in that threshold of, hey, we can, if you build a single use egg building, it's a 10-year life, you're taking 100% bonus on that anyways. And so again, they're great opportunities. They're, and you think about how long there's a lot of upkeep and there's a lot of stuff there, but they can be great bonus depreciation assets.
I think the thing to think about for me as I age, I've got a little bit of gray in my beard. If I'm investing, I said we wouldn't give investment advice, so just don't take this as investment advice. But I'm thinking about my own stuff. What would I invest in today, or what interests me? Food production. It's recession proof. It's always going to be there. It's going to happen. As long as humans are on this planet, we're going to need food. Energy production. We're always going to need energy anywhere on this planet, and shelter, right? Those are like the hierarchy of needs, things we need. So, if I'm investing in housing assets because I believe shelter is important, food assets or energy assets, and I think data, to be honest with you, is probably here to stay unless we destroy the planet somehow. Those four areas, there's bonus depreciation available in all of them in varying capacities.
Correct.
So I'm just going to go ahead and rank them, and you tell me where I'm wrong. I would say number one, bonus depreciation, industry, energy. Wouldn't you say? That's probably the one. Number two would be, to me, data. Just these new data centers and stuff that are getting built are just an insane amount of. You're doing the studies. I don't know. I guess food. I'm going to switch it around.
Say food manufacturers are usually really, those are really high class. I would say data and food manufacturers are pretty close, but.
And how much bonus they're generating. And then the last one would be housing, because we talked about this. The cost segregation study industry is getting beat up on kitchens and bathrooms and tile and things like that, where it's a little bit harder today to squeeze a little bit of value out of cost segregation value out of an apartment building. Then maybe, well, I shouldn't say that it was. The rules have been the rules forever, but just the interpretation rules have changed over time.
No.
Well, this brings us to the last part, Steve, I'll let you get back to your wonderful conference and get some more suntan. But I wanted to talk about some of the things your office, every time we get together, you're like, I wish I could tell everybody this, and don't do that. And I'm going to look at my notes here, but if you just want to start off with anything that comes to mind, and I'm going to look at my notes and see what I had.
One of the biggest things I saw this last month, again, 25 with the bonus depreciation. I got a lot of calls in December saying, hey, I need a cost segregation study done. I need it done by December 31st. And I've asked them and said, why? And finally found out, I asked the client and said, why? I've heard this multiple times. And he goes, well, I chat GPT'd it and it said the study has to be done by 12/31. No, the study has to be done prior to you filing your tax return. Okay, so if you bought the property in 25 and you place it in service and it's ready to rent, you can actually, it doesn't matter when we do the study. I'm going to say I don't like this, but we did a study last year. I talked to the client October 6th, and it was due October 15th. We got it done. I don't love 9 days turnaround. They paid a premium. They knew they were getting paid a premium. Or they were paying a premium because we're like, we have 9 days. So again, we have a lot of time. We have 10 months yet to file to do your tax return. So if you bought a property in 25, you have plenty of time to do a study. That's going to be myth number one is that I've seen in everybody is that for some reason people think it has to be done by year end. You just have to buy it by year end.
So then the other one that I got this from somebody else in your office. I think it drives him nuts more than you maybe. We won't mention names. But I bought a house a long time ago. Now I'm going to rent it out.
Yep.
What's wrong with that scenario?
So with the OBBA, and they actually came out with guidance last week, again, reconfirming this, but if you own the property prior to January 20th, 2025, you're actually in the old tax rules. So again, if you bought it December 31st and you didn't place it into service into February, technically you're only eligible for 40% bonus depreciation. If you bought the house, and let's say again, you bought the house in 2012 and now you're going to save all this money doing a short-term vacation rental, you're not eligible for bonus because you owned it prior to that and there's no bonus depreciation in 2012. But the other thing is let's say you did buy it in 2022, because we had bonus depreciation for used property. So you bought it in 22. You now are converting it to a short-term vacation rental or just a rental property in 25. It's eligible for 40% bonus. It's not eligible for 100%, because it goes on the acquisition date and then the place in service date.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, it's better than nothing, but again, but if you bought it in 2015, you have no bonus. Take it through.
So buy the new property, right? If you're going to get in the Airbnb business, that's
buy a new property, stay in your house that you have, and buy the new property and do that.
Don't forget, this is the tax guy in me coming out. Section 212 for selling your house and not recognizing the gain is probably one of the best things for just the common guy taxpayer out there. Keep that intact. Let's just use that.
Exactly, is that 212, and I've a lot of clients, and I know you have, that they want to take a home deduction, or they wanted and it's like, they're W-2, but they're like, hey, let's take a home deduction. And you're like, well, you're kind of piercing that 212 where that's a 500, that could be up to a $500,000 gain exclusion.
Let's leave that one where it's at. Yep. Well, let's do this. I'll let you go in 2 minutes or 3 minutes here. This was great. It probably was long for the people watching who aren't cost seg people. To me, it's insanely interesting. But one sort of trivia question for you and I to talk through. The biggest write-off you don't have to talk in dollar terms. What was the one where you went, oh my God, you did this cost seg study, this number is gigantic? What did that? Give me a profile. You don't have to give me
Yep.
any.
I'm actually going to talk about a client. He's actually he's bought a lot and done a lot, but this is one we actually quoted this, and he built it in 24, so he's at 60% bonus. But when we quoted it, we thought we'd find him between $3 and $7 million of 15-year personal property. When I delivered it, we were at 11 million. So we were 3 million over what we quoted. And then we did the 179D deduction. And that was another $1 million deduction. So he bought this property for $30 million, and we took $13 million of shorter lives. And 60% was that year.
That was a 60% year. I'm so excited for it to continue to be 100%.
I know.
I'm just glorious because, I would love to have a $13 million deduction on a $30 million building that I maybe put $5 million down on of equity. What a home run.
Yeah, it was great. He's a client for life.
Yeah. Yes, a client for life. I had one, though. This is going all the way back to 2000. I don't know if you were in this business at the .com burst in that recession. So 2000, I'm pulling cobwebs out. 2002, 2003, they had the carry back. So you could do a 3115 cost segregation study and take back depreciation and then carry back the losses. And I think it was like 03 and 04 were the years where we were doing it. And the thing that really stuck out to me to this day was we had a person come in with a big portfolio, never even heard of cost segregation studies. And we went through and did probably the low-hanging fruit, 5 or 6 buildings that we knew were going to come out okay. And to file that return and carry back the losses, man, if that ever comes back again, because that was an insane dollar amount, and it was not just saving tax from this year, it was going back and getting past tax that person paid. And he's like, Todd, the IRS has never written me a check before. 20 years of me writing them checks. I don't know how you all did this magic. Well, that's not around today, so don't get excited. Carryback's not here, but they do. Congress does flirt with it every time there's a recession or something. They talk about carryback.
It'd be nice to have the carryback. I'm going to say one of the first ones I worked with the CPA firm in Sioux Falls, and it's not a big dollar amount, but it was fun because I actually worked with the CPA. I actually put it into the tax return because the CPA is like, I don't know what you're doing. So he's like, you just do it. So I actually went up and actually helped him put the results into the depreciation schedule and everything. And it was really cool because the guy had an income of, before our study, had an income of about $500,000. He had built this property like 9 years prior, and we came in and did the study. We did the 3115 to catch everything up. We lowered his taxable income down to $150,000. But the best part is he had 2 kids in college. At $500,000, he was phased out of the education credits. At $150,000, he got the $5,000 in education credits, and that was, our fee was probably $6,000. This was in 2015. Our fee was $6,000. So you take our tax effect, the education credits outweighed this, and so this guy, every time he sees me, and if I see him around town, he's always got a cold beer in my hand in a couple minutes, or lunch bought. I mean, still to the day, I've seen him a few times, and he just raves about it.
Love it. Well, that's the beauty of our business. We get to save people in taxes. Well, Steve, thanks a ton. Again, I'm Todd Phillips, tax attorney. My company's Legacy Tax Advisors. Your company's Mariner. Do you just call yourselves Mariner? Or do you have a specialty group called the Cost Seg Group?
We have a Mariner, but we're branded as Mariner, so we are Mariner. But we do have a Mariner specialty tax team, so MSTS. So
hats off to Mariner for being progressive enough of an investment advisory firm to have a Cost Seg team on staff. Kudos to them, and great talking with you, Steve. Appreciate it. Let's go get some cost segregation studies done in 26 for both years, 25 and 26, because it's go time, man. We got the tax laws in our favor again, and
one last thing. I'm going to just bonus depreciation is permanent until we have a tax law.
You're never gonna let me live that down, are you?
No, I'm not gonna. I wasn't even going there. That's one other myth because bonus depreciation is now permanent.
Yep.
Qualified production property, which is a manufacturing part of it, that is only till 2029. So, just wanted, yeah, bonus is a great thing, and until something happens, we've got it forever. So,
Until something happens. I don't even want to know what's gonna happen with the next political cycle, but
we're
We
not
got-
talking about that today, Todd.
thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful
Thank
day.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.